Being fat or skinny is a choice.
Being skinny or being fat is about willpower.
A recent Jubilee video has been taking the internet by storm. Today, I'm actually sitting down with one of the participants herself, Miss Lauren DeLaguna.
If you don't think that it's normal for a morbidly obese person to be wearing a G-string in the middle of public, then you're the problem. And they're trying to normalize society to this obese culture, which is extremely unhealthy.
Today, we are in for a treat. Miss Lauren DeLaguna. Everybody make sure you check out her channel and give her a lot of love after this, which I feel like she especially deserves because your reception from Jubilee's platform was not very positive. And that's, in my opinion, because you're the only one who actually spoke the truth.
And Dominick.
Aside from Dominick, correct.
I love Dominick.
Love Dominick.
There was a point, I think it was like after the second or third question, where they told me, if you don't want to come off hated, you have to change your facial expressions and start expressing yourself. And so I guess even my facial expressions were upsetting the camera guys. I was like, holy shit. First of all, I'm usually known for my facial expressions, so I wanted to like express myself without like interrupting people.
Okay.
But apparently I just came off like a condescending C-word the entire time.
You're being yourself. You're being authentic, and you were strong in the opinions that you believed in, which they needed more representation of that on your side.
I did have a sit down with Pearl, and I told her I was going on this show, and I was like, what do you think I should do? She was like, you should wear a shirt that says fat people are lazy, and you should walk in there and be like, bikinis should be illegal if you're over 300 pounds. And she said like she gave me all of it. I typed it down, and I was going to say some of that stuff. And like, I understand because it's good it's good views, but at the same time, it wasn't fully in line with everything I believed in. There's some points that I do agree with. I do think you are being lazy to an extent if you're putting your addiction to food or addiction to any substance over like your family or your health. So I do agree with that point, but should I wear it on a shirt? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Alrighty, guys. So we are going to go ahead and play the very first prompt. Well, not the first prompt, but the first one that we are going to give our commentary to.
I would rather be skinny than fat. Can the agreeers please step forward?
Liar, liar, liar. No, actually, they're very nice people.
You walk forward so fast. But before we do this, I just realized that we need our ice cream.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate that.
Yes.
I think that it is common in society to want to be skinny. I think the average person typically wants to be skinny. I'm actually surprised that I didn't see more people come forward on that question.
Total cope that not every single person walked forward. Like, that is literally cope. You're telling me if a magic genie was available and these people had 3 wishes.
So I guess the way the question's phrased, you could not prefer, you could be neutral. And I suppose maybe that's what they're saying. And they would rather not have to be a part of diet culture and like starve themselves in order to be skinny. But simultaneously, as you said, if there was a magic genie and they can eat as many cheeseburgers as they want a day, but still all of a sudden become, a model, they would.
So I really love the reasonings that you go into here. And you mentioned life expectancy and health and all of those things. We'll just play it and then we'll talk about it.
People treat you better. It is what is considered the standard of beauty. Your life expectancy is longer. You tend to be healthier.
So one thing that I've seen people say is that like your answer was kind of like superficial.
Yeah, people were saying that I was superficial, right? Because like I brought up beauty standards first as opposed to like health or life expectancy or other reasons why you might, I kind of like stepped right where people wouldn't step. Like that is what motivates people. People really aren't motivated by health as much as they're motivated by beauty. It's just part of life. That's why people get fillers. That's why people do things that are unhealthy for the sake of beauty. They put on makeup, which tends to be unhealthy for your skin.
Extremely risky procedures. Dude, you know the complications involved with some BBLs? Yeah, one third, no, not 1/3, but a lot of the women out here in Miami
Oh my God.
do not have natural asses, okay? Let's just say that.
And these women have previously strived to be thin because they've all talked about like being on these extreme diets. So like they do understand the pressure of like wanting to be a part of beauty standards. So then why are you saying that you would not prefer to be skinny? Then why did you previously starve yourself if you don't prefer to be skinny?
Yeah, that is the main actual motivator and instigator. Like health, unless somebody unfortunately gets a health shock where say all of a sudden they're presented with the fact that, hey, if you keep going down this lifestyle, this is your life expectancy or this ailment may occur. That is motivating to people. But when you can't seriously see the repercussions of your actions right in front of you, health isn't always going to necessarily be the greatest motivator.
I'm also really tall. I'm 6'6", so I kind of wish I could just pick a single struggle because finding the clothes and things like that when you're bigger both ways can make it really hard. So if I was skinnier, at least that's one less thing I have to worry about. But also, I've got 2 kids and a wife, and I'm taking care of them. And as you pointed out, I definitely think that I'm at less health risks if I'm a skinnier person, if I'm a healthier person in that capacity. And I would much rather be that so that I could be around for my kids longer.
There is a show called My 600-Pound Life. They could have brought in somebody who had previously been bedridden and worked themselves out of that.
Right.
And I thought that would have been such great input. We have Dominick on panel who is losing a lot of weight, but I'm not sure if Jubilee knew that he was in the process of losing weight.
Oh, really?
When we talked yes, he has been on like 4 other Jubilees, I believe. So like he is like in Jubilee a lot. And so I don't think they were expecting him to be on the other side, but he's just such a positive vibe all the time. That's probably why they have him back. And that's probably why I'm blacklisted, because I'm just like so blunt.
I really enjoyed watching you on Jubilee. I think you made some really, really great points. That was like a pretty like across the board like response to you from everyone, like across all sides.
There was one negative comment.
Who?
I think we had talked about it a bit during the thing, but it didn't get brought up, which is this idea that like a lot of the like fat shaming or like, plus sized, big, beautiful and proud stuff is definitely more women heavy. Like you're not going to see them do that positively for a man.
Yes.
Right? When it's a man's fat, he's a bumbling idiot in a comedy trope. When a woman's fat, you have to accept her and think she's beautiful.
Can the disagreeers please step forward?
I'm speaking as someone who actually was a former smaller person, and I had the most body insecurities when I was small. I was constantly living in fear of gaining weight. And once I finally gained weight, I realized that, first off, life wasn't over. And the attention that I got was different. But even as a smaller person, you get negative attention.
Even as a smaller person, you get negative attention. What do you think about that?
Does it answer the prompt? I would rather be skinny than fat. So she just avoided the prompt. So the first question out of the gate was an avoidance of the prompt. And that, like, as like an autistic person, I'm like, wait, that really irks me, but I can't. But apparently this panel is not set up like a debate. So I can't be like, stick to the prompt. Did she answer that?
I don't know. Let's finish listening. Maybe.
Trying to control my body to avoid that negative attention.
I would prefer to address the situation as a society, make it more accessible for everybody to wear. We aren't feeling like I have to wear. We aren't feeling like I have to be a certain way.
So no, she didn't answer the prompts.
And listen, I have gotten negative attention for being thin too. I'm a person who my weight really oscillates. I would rather the struggle of being underweight so far as your ability to be able to get to a healthy kind of like homeostasis versus the opposite where you're trying to lose weight. And then also in the sense of the attention that you get. Like, yeah, I had a couple people tell me that I needed to like eat a cheeseburger or something.
When someone bullies you from being skinny, do you not get a little ping of like satisfaction?
I think I did I don't remember. It was a while ago. It was like in my high school days. But yeah, like I don't remember ever being like shook by it or like, oh, I'm so offended. I want to go home and like cry.
I am fairly skinny. I'm 6'5". I'm 140 pounds last time I checked, and I'm severely underweight. And I know about this on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, 6'5" and 140 pounds that's really skinny.
That being said, I don't know where I'd want to lean at an appropriate weight level, but I think it's important to understand for some skinny people,
But would you rather be fat? Would you rather be this way? And even though he is like, this is literally the worst case scenario, skinny. And he says that he's not anorexic, like that he's not doing this to himself, that he's like purposely eating all these calories and that he's just never hungry. This is what a lot of anorexic people say. So he might actually just be anorexic and not be diagnosed or whatever with like the mental diagnosis of anorexia.
Also, when you see this type of cognitive dissonance occurring on this type of a panel, I don't think it's to the extent as anorexia because they literally do not even realize that they're that thin in a lot of these instances. Whereas overweight people, like they're all cognizant of the fact that they're
says
fat.
he's cognizant. He even said I'm fully cognizant.
And he said he's aware. He's like, I go a day or two without eating and that's my choice.
I know what I do with my body. I know what I put into it day in and day out. I choose not to eat some days.
I'm not saying I'm diagnosing him, but I guess I kind of am. But I shouldn't because I don't have a psychology degree or any of the requisite shit. And I've never spoken to him long enough. But damn, if you're not eating for days at a time because you choose not to, what the fuck do you call that?
Yeah, that's not normal.
Yeah, that's so. And you're being put on weight plans because doctors are forcing you. It sounds like an ED to me.
Yeah.
But what do I know? I'm just a skinny, fat shaming bitch.
We're not living a great life by any means. And sometimes I feel like that's always kind of lost in translation when they see someone who's really skinny.
I guess it depends on what you mean when you think of the term skinny. Are you thinking of just like an average weight person, or are you thinking of how you are now?
I'm the average weight for like women in America.
Yeah,
so if we're talking about an average, like I'm going to be the closest. If your biggest priority is to be at a smaller...
Dude, one of her titties is closest to the average weight of a woman in America. Look at those things. I mean, I wish I had those. All of these people are super nice.
I'm sure they're really nice.
But that is not the average weight.
Just the fact that she literally even said that was so much confidence, so much audacity to be like, well, actually, I'm the average size woman in America.
Well, did she say the average weight? What did she say specifically? Did she say the average weight? Because if so, not the average height.
I'm the average weight for like women in America.
Okay, average weight. So she says the average weight. Maybe she's not accounting for her height.
I see her.
Yeah, but that's next to
She's like
Dominic.
normal height. She's normal
But that's
height.
next to Dominic.
Yeah, but her
Dominic's a fucking beast.
If your biggest priority is to be at a smaller body, you need to reassess your priorities.
Yeah, not focused on health.
Yeah.
In the immediate time.
Wait, if your biggest priority is to be in a smaller
size.
That's once again, okay, you have a choice. Magic Genie in front of you, skinny or fat. What do you choose?
Health, like you emphasize. There is such a gap between the research, because the research has a huge fatphobic bias in it, and there has been
I get to that. Don't you worry.
Especially during let's say COVID and the correlation between obesity. They rushed through those studies so fast because in society's mind, of course a fat person is going to equal someone who's going to get sick faster. It was an easy jump. So they didn't do all of the testing that they were supposed to do.
So if by saying the study is biased, you're saying that the study didn't account for the variable that obesity may also take a factor into. It's just that there's so many variables in humanity that these pharmaceutical companies could only account for so many during their trials.
I don't think I explained this in enough depth. In that point, I'm saying when all of these studies don't take in like variables, like a gay person could come in and say they didn't take into accountability like homosexual activity. And it's like, so they're biased against homosexuals. It's like, okay, well that's one, or like, okay, they didn't take into accountability anorexia. And so therefore they're biased against anorexic. They can't take, they can only take in so many variables. They were testing a drug to see if it works. They take a population as best as they can for the research and they test as many things as possible. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, they're fat phobic because they didn't like equate for me being like 700 pounds.
So we've been showing that, fat people aren't necessarily extremely unhealthy if we look at people with a certain BMI. However, bodybuilders also have a really high BMI. And so they get counted into that category. And so it wasn't until very recently that they equated for that mistake. And it shows, oh my goodness, being fat is actually extremely unhealthy, like way, way more unhealthy than we ever realized.
You can't gauge health by looking at somebody.
Yeah. So, okay, if you're bedbound and I'm looking at you and you're bedbound, can I tell that someone is unhealthy just by looking at them?
You look at somebody and within a fraction of a second, your brain forms certain assumptions. You form assumptions about people's gender. Is this a person that appears dangerous or safe? We make all of these snap-second judgments without even really being conscious of the logical thought process that we go through. Most of this is subconscious because there's things we associate with being in a state of health. And there's things that we associate with being in a state of unhealthiness or dis-ease.
Sure. There's a lot of things that you can't necessarily see. Maybe you could have cancer and look very healthy and not realize it for a long time and then be stage 4 before you realize it. Or there's plenty of things where you could look healthy and be unhealthy, or you could maybe look unhealthy and be healthier at your healthiest ever in your life, but still look unhealthy.
Right.
But yeah, that's exactly what you do. You look at people. I'm telling you, if you weigh, 300 pounds and you're 5 foot, doctor's not going to say
you're healthy. Yeah.
You're healthy. Yeah.
Yeah.
he's probably going to tell you to diet. Unless, actually, though, the medical industry in America has changed so that they are not supposed to tell you that anymore. It's no longer medical advice. You could be healthy at any weight. And so therefore, you should address the other issues that come. So like, for instance, if you start having blood issues because of your obesity, just address the blood issues with pharmaceuticals.
There's a lot of problems with for-profit healthcare systems. And I think that nowadays they're a lot less interested with actually fixing the issues and rather figuring out how they can monetize off them. And with obesity, there is a barrage, a never-ending list of complications and health issues and mental health issues that come as a result of that, which is just more money that they can make at the end of the day, more things that they can provide, like a Band-Aid or like a blanket solution for at the end of the day.
Which
do I have ice cream in my teeth? No.
How can you get ice cream in your teeth?
I don't know.
Like a liquidy substance.
I just wanted to check. Wait, there's like chocolate chips in there and stuff.
Anyway, I'm very pro-capitalism, but there is a problem with the medical industry in which like pharmaceutical industries pay off schools and they get to teach some of the doctors about like their drugs, or they get to, encourage their way of thinking. There's a lot of pushing of like a certain agenda. Like for instance, like the organization that runs like the American Medical, the AMA, the American Medical Association, is a privatized system so they could take in,
whatever they want. Yeah.
Right. And so you have to imagine there is like people who are lobbying within that system because it's semi-governmental to push for a healthy at every size acceptance movement. Like if you watch My 600-Pound Life or whatever, they just are constantly coming up with excuses. The medical issue genuinely is your weight. You have to lose the weight to get healthy. And they just think, oh, these doctors are being biased against me because I'm fat. Like people will die from this. Do you know Dr. Nowzdick? No, Dr. Nowzardian.
No.
Okay, so this is the leading fat doctor in America, okay?
I still have to eat something. No. Eating the food that belongs to the next 4 years ahead of time. So if you don't eat, you're going to be all right. At your weight, body got the reserve that you don't eat anything for a week or two. You're not going to have anything going to happen.
So he's on every episode of My 600-Pound Life, and he's always fat shaming these fat people. Be like, lose weight. You're going to die. You're going to die. And they're all like, yeah, they all get it because they've reached that point. So these are a bunch of people who haven't reached the point of realizing like they're on a death spiral and they're encouraging each other. And a lot of these people, so there's like, for instance, the National Association for the Advancement of Fat Acceptance, NAAFA. They're a bunch of like fat acceptance people. And a lot of people who were once a part of that are now on My 600-Pound Life. And it was largely women who were hyping each other up and saying, okay, it's okay to do this. And then men who were fetishizing these women. And a lot of these men, part of the fetish was feeding them to the point they're bedbound until they die. Like that was part of the fetish.
Alrighty, guys, we are going to move on to the second prompt, which is America has an obesity problem. Let's see how it starts.
Okay, it's going to continue. America has an obesity problem.
We're putting these women on the fronts of magazines and then putting on the cover of the magazine, health is beauty. And that's the problem. It's not just that some models are obese, but it's like, yes and no. Have you walked into a Target recently? They have all of these mannequins that are obese. And then in all of these runway models now, like runway shows, we have obese models. And do obese women really need to know what they look like in clothing? It's bad. They look bad. Like they need to lose weight. You look better